Welcome to the Frictionless Innkeeper Podcast. Coming right up, fresh tips and insights from lodging professionals aimed at helping you improve your business. Our podcast is brought to you by the Frictionless Guest App, the digital concierge that helps your guests to live like locals. Learn how at frictionlessguest.com. Steve Short, how's it going?
Doing well, Matt. Trying to get through the winter there or what? Almost ready for spring, or it's probably spring there for now.
You know, what happened here in Madrid, it rained for the past month and it was cold and it was highly unusual and people were really bummed out. But this weekend, it's going to be 65 degrees and sunny. So we're pretty happy about that. And you were telling me earlier that in the DC, Baltimore area, it's still pretty cold, right?
Yeah, but at least it's gotten, the really cold stuff is no longer here. It seems like we're above freezing just about every day now. We've had some fairly, one or two warm ones, but yeah, that foot of snow is not totally gone. So yeah.
Yeah, it's been quite a rough winter. And speaking of rough winters, our next podcast person that we're speaking with right now, Cody Harmon, who's the owner and founder of Scratch Media, is based in North Dakota. And he put our complaining about weather to shame because that's a whole nother level of winter there. But the podcast doesn't focus all on winter. What I thought was interesting about this was how he framed the value of really high quality, especially video and photography, video of property and off property. And I can't remember what he said, but if you do a high quality video on your website, it can serve as your concierge as well as, what was the other one? Do you remember what he said? But it basically really hit home really well.
Mostly, yeah, the concierge thing, the fact that, which it didn't really dawn on me, and I don't know that I've seen a whole lot of videos on sites this way, where he said it's about half on property, half off property, which is a great idea. And of course, that's what we're about, is things to do off property, especially. And so it's kind of a view of, hey, if I stay with you, here's what it's going to be like while I'm there, but here's a lot of things that I can do while I'm offsite during my stay. So it is about guest experience on and off property, and that really can differentiate you from everybody else because you're giving them a visual. You're kind of setting the stage for what it's going to be like when they come and visit with you. So, well, everybody has to listen to find out what the discussion was.
But concierge, you said something else, but I think that was exactly it. It's like, this tells the entire story, not just about the property, but about all of the surrounding areas. And he really made a lot of compelling kind of points about the value of quality photography and video. And I got to say, he's a great guy with a cracking personality too. So if you want him to come to your property for 2 to 3 days to do a shoot, I think you'll have a good time with it.
I totally agree with that.
Yes,
for sure. We had a fun time with him as well. Yeah.
This was a fun one. With that in mind, we hope you enjoy this Frictionless Innkeeper podcast interview with Cody Harmon, who is the owner and founder of Scratch Media. And Cody, thanks for joining us.
Hey, good afternoon, Matt and Steve. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
Great to have you. Steve Short, how are you?
Doing well, Matt. What's going on with you?
Same old, same old. I mean, here we are recording in, what is it, February already? And I don't know, did the winter chill stop in the DC, Baltimore area? Is that still going on, Steve?
The snow is slowly melting, but I wouldn't say that the winter chill is gone. So
yeah, it's been quite a winter.
The thrill is gone, using the song reference, Mr. B.B. King, but the thrill of the winter is gone. I'm ready for spring and summer. Yeah.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. It's been a rough winter, and we'll talk to Cody more about where he's based because he has a pretty rough winter there. But before we get into that, Cody, tell us about yourself, your background, Scratch Media, all that stuff.
Well, thank you very much. And yeah, of course, I'm not going to have a lot of sympathy for your guys' winter woes being based up here in Fargo, North Dakota. The winter chill has got a long way to go here. So I run a company called Scratch Media based here in Fargo, and I am primarily a hospitality-based videography and photography business. I do other freelance work along the way. I like to have varied interests and see what's out there, but hospitality is my main source of work these days. I came up just working random videography jobs where I could find them. I started in television news here in Fargo, which was an incredibly varied position. You're doing a little bit something different every day. It could be an air show one day, it's a murder trial the next. And I found it was a young man's game. They have crazy hours. You get called at 3 a.m. to go shoot fires, and you got to be ready to go, and anything else that could go on. So I moved on from that and got into the agriculture industry, which is pretty big up here in North Dakota, obviously. So out there in the fields with the combines and the tractors and the farmers that didn't always seem receptive to having the camera, but we tried to break through that shell a little bit and get them to express themselves, which was a lot of fun. And then I made it to hospitality. So I worked for a hospitality company here in town that was eventually purchased by a company called Ambridge Hospitality based in Texas. They're a very large third-party operator of hotels, and it gave me wonderful opportunities to really see the country, see the different types of hotels, find what I liked, what I didn't like about those types of operations, and kind of create a model of who I wanted to be and what my business wanted to be. So it's been about 5 years since I left that and started Scratch Media, and it has been a terrific experience. I have had no regrets. I don't look back with envy about where I was. It's great to be the boss and not have all the red tape to cut through. And it's just wonderful getting to make sure the company is who I am and it's my personality. And I get to share that with all the clients that I go out and see. So I'm sorry, that was a long-winded answer, but that's me. That's Scratch Media.
No, that's a good answer. You are it. You're Scratch.
It's just me. Yeah. I get asked all the time if I'm going to hire, and I'm not at that position for several reasons. One of which is I don't like paperwork. So having to figure out benefits and payroll and everything sounds like a drag compared to what I do on an everyday basis, which is go out and shoot these beautiful properties. But the other thing is it's so hard because I feel so much of Scratch Media, it really is wrapped up in my personality. And it's hard to find somebody who kind of matches that and who I can send out and know that they are going to handle things the way I would handle things. And I'm sure you guys have experienced that over the years. It can be a little daunting to try to discover a personality that matches your own. So I really do believe that so much of what people get when they hire Scratch Media is they get me and the fun adventure that we'll go on for the few days that I'm shooting with you. I think that makes a big difference.
So what is your personality? Or at least what, so how does that, what's that impact your work?
It's a lot, Steve. That's what it is. Yeah. I come from a Midwest background, obviously, and there's a lot of reserved people up here. And I think I've tried to make up the difference for the entire state with I like to have fun. I like to tease. It's the way I get to know people is, we'll have a chuckle at each other's expense. And I just try to make it as enjoyable as I can. I'm not afraid to get my hands dirty and jump in and do whatever is needed to make sure things are a success. I have been known to maybe get myself in the kitchen and start helping out when I see that there's a rush or things needed to be done, just because I want to make sure everything is going smoothly for the videos that we create and then also for the operators of the properties.
So your services, can you break them down into some basic groups? Is video mostly what you do, or do you do, some photography? And what does that entail typically? Does it tend to be like those 5 or 10 second snippets that you see on the website because there's movement and it catches your attention, that sort of thing? Or is it more like, well, we're doing stuff that goes up 2-minute, 3-minute videos, interviews? What type of stuff do you tend to do for independent lodging folks?
I do pride myself on being very versatile. I do about probably 40% photography and 60% videography. I like to say the photos pay the bills and the videos for the thrills. That's, where I prefer to put my time is in the videos. I think they're a lot more fun and creative, but I understand the importance of the high quality photography as well. And being able to combine those services for clients is really crucial, that you can bring one person in and get everything taken care of at once. It can be really helpful for people that have limited budgets, limited time, don't want to have to set up for 2 separate shoots, things along that nature. The videos themselves, I have a fairly standard package that I usually pitch for people, which is there's the full video, which is usually between 90 seconds and 120 seconds. When I go to a property, I like to kind of capture not just the bed and breakfast or the hotel or wherever I'm at, but the attractions, the local experiences, and really show what the guest is going to see and do when they arrive. And so that takes a little bit longer to show, right? We start at the hotel and then we send people out and we go into the cities and we, go to the restaurants and we go to the amusement parks or the beaches or wherever we are and try to experience those things. So clients I have found they like to do is they take that video and they put it as kind of a masthead on their website. And as soon as you go to that website, it's going to start playing on a loop and people don't have to go and click on different pages. Like they can just sit there for 90 seconds and see everything that's going to happen on their vacation before they've even, scrolled down. Within the package that we usually offer, there are the shorter cuts too, because I know there are outlets for that, social advertising and things. So we do a 45-second, a 30-second, and 15 seconds. And I can kind of tailor that and customize it at any way that needs be. Again, that's one of the nimble things that we can do since the company is just me. We don't have to be so rigid on what that package includes and exactly how it is. I try to gauge that based off the clients, their personality, the personality of their property, and what makes the most sense for them.
Sounds like Total Recall, because you're showing them the vacation, but remember, well, do you want the cheaper package or not? So
I haven't shot on Mars yet. I haven't got that opportunity, but I'm waiting for the call.
I didn't think about that. I just kind of assumed it was just property-based stuff. And of course, the Frictionless Guest App is all about really what to do off-site mostly. And so that's interesting that you're actually going out, and that's totally in sync with what we believe. But what you're saying is the draw is if somebody comes, they're wondering, do I book here? They want to see the property, obviously, but it's also about the experience off property that you consider is pretty important. And how much of the video typically is off-site stuff?
Yeah, I'm glad you guys are in pace with what that mission is, because I don't know anybody that goes to a hotel and bed and breakfast just to stay there and not do anything else, right? They're looking for a place to stay and be comfortable and enjoy themselves while they go out on these adventures. So I would say the videos usually end up being about half and half. We'll start at the property, go out in the town, come back to the property to finish. So there's kind of that story being told. And we have the bookends of the property featured on the website there. And I think that's really crucial. It's not something that's usually involved when you do just the photography, because you're trying to get those high quality images of the bedrooms, of the dining rooms and everything like that. But this video allows you to have so much more creativity in what you're trying to show your guests. I equate it to having a tour guide that is just constantly up on your website for you. Again, you can scroll to those pages and they usually have local attractions and it's a link to the website for the park district or whatever else, and you're going to a whole bunch of different sites and it's kind of cumbersome and everything like that. Whereas when this video plays right away, it's contained, it's one package right there for you to enjoy.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Now, just curious about, I'm curious about multiple things, but like equipment's one of them, but also it makes me think about seeing sites for properties. And I guess it's the properties that are larger, like, maybe they're waterfront or whatever, but I see drone video stuff. So if it's a property where the property itself is so impressive overall, meaning not just the house or whatever, but the whole thing is really impressive. So do you do any drone type stuff, or is it all just, on land?
Drones are pretty expensive, but I got a decent arm. I can throw my camera up pretty high. I've got a drone, fully licensed and certified to be a commercial pilot for the drone. And you're absolutely right. I think the word breathtaking comes to mind when you see some of those drone shots. It gives you a whole different perspective rather than driving up to the property. You're coming from above and you're seeing everything that's taking place around it, whether it is the beach or the mountains in the background, anything like that. And I think it's fun just for, the innkeepers to be able to see their own place that they've seen a million times, but they see it from an angle that they've never seen before, right? Whether they've been there 5 years or 25 years, you're capturing something that they've never been able to see before. And I think that's kind of a thrill to show that to them and just have them kind of gasp and say, oh, I had no idea that we could look like this, that could be a part of it. Yeah. The drones, I think it really is a selling feature for any place that has environmental perks. Yeah. So like you said, it's the beaches and the hills and the ocean fronts and everything like that. It can really sweep you away.
And then the on ground or on site type stuff, you must be using some sort of equipment that's beyond an iPhone, a high-end iPhone or something, but I don't know. I mean, how do you do the video and the photography? I'm assuming that, it's heavy duty, expensive equipment that you maybe not heavy duty, but expensive stuff that the average person, is not going to have. Is that right?
Well, after carrying it around for 3 days all over town, it does feel pretty heavy duty, but
Yeah.
I've got what is called a mirrorless hybrid camera. I use it both for the photography and the videography. And so when we're doing the photography, we get the tripods out, we get the steady shots, we make sure everything's absolutely perfect for that. When we're doing the video, that's usually quick movements. We're trying to get around and do things. And I shoot on what's called a gimbal. I don't know if you're familiar with a gimbal, but it is kind of like a handheld tripod that has 3 different motors on it. So kind of as I'm moving around, it's steadying that camera for me. It's a nice, easy way to have good looking footage without having to set up sliders, without having to set up boom arms, everything like that. I can really control those shots with my hands in a way that doesn't consume a lot of time. I understand that in the hospitality industry, we can't shut down for a day to do a shoot, right? I mean, we're open 365 days a year. So I have to be able to make sure I'm making the most of the innkeeper's time, the hotelier's time, that we don't have to close off these huge areas. I can get in there quick. We can set up a light or two real fast, make sure everything looks great, and I can get around and do a couple takes, and then we move on to the next thing. I've been part of productions that are quite a bit larger, quite a bit more expensive, quite a bit more gear, and it blows my mind how long they could take to get a single shot. And the results are terrific. I won't deny that. But, if we're getting you 85% of the way there with 15% of the investment of time and finances, I think that's a huge advantage in this industry where, like I said, there is no closing down for this type of activity.
Talk about your typical shoot or whatever. Is it a 2-day thing? And I want to get into cost, but also kind of the value part of that as well, because costs are only relevant if you base it upon what does the innkeeper get out of it. So what's a typical package, or what's sort of average for, like, let's say I have a 7-room bed and breakfast and I say, hey, Cody, I want video and photography, whatever, on my website that really represents and looks professional and all of that. And I think that's going to be worth it, so that when people come to my site, they see who we are, more chance of booking. Tell me how much it's going to cost me or, give me a ballpark.
Well, the process itself is I'm usually on property for 3 or 4 days if we're doing photo and video. And we try to divide that up where half of it takes place at the hotel and half of it takes place capturing those attractions going through the city, whatever else happens. It's nice to have just a little buffer in there because obviously we are dependent on good weather for most of it. Some of the interior shots we can do, on a cloudy day or rainy day. But when we schedule this, I try to have just a little extra wiggle room in there that, if we got 2 days of bad weather, we're still going to have 2 days where I can get out there and make sure we've captured everything. There'll be long days, but we'll get it done for you. So yeah, it's about 4 days on property. Obviously being based in Fargo, North Dakota, I have to usually fly out to the locations. If it's anywhere within driving distance, I prefer to do that. So there's travel time involved for myself as well, but it's not too much of a commitment for the property to have me on site. Pricing, when I price a video package for this type of thing, it's usually in that $4,500 range. And that kind of gives you what I was explaining before of the long video, the shorter videos, and then any customization that you need, right? And then, there is a thing, and I hate to even advertise it on this podcast because I'm going to really piss off other videographers because I don't know anybody else that does this. At the end of the shoot, I do offer up the raw footage to the property. What I've done, everything's shot in a very flat log format, but I do a little color correcting and I cut it down to the best clips, which could be, 15, 20 minutes of raw footage of just great clips back to back to back. And I like to give that to the property. So if they have somebody on staff that just wants to crank out, a couple quick ads, that they can just grab those clips, put them together and have it done. And that's not something that anybody else usually does. There's licensing fees, there's rights involved, everything like that. But I'm under the impression that you've hired me to capture this footage for you. So that's your footage, right? If you hire me to make you a sandwich, that's your sandwich. I can't take it back later just bit by bit and say, no, you got to pay for the tomatoes now to get this back in there or anything like that. So it's the service that I provide. That's what you're paying for. And I want to make sure that you have that. And then, for photography, it's usually like an add-on of X dollars per shot. It can be anywhere from 50 to 100 if we're doing food shots or architectural shots and all the editing that goes into it. With the photography, I'm pretty particular. When I worked for the hospitality company, I was doing shoots for the big brands, right? So that was your Hiltons, your Marriotts, Holiday Inns, things like that had very strict standards. And that's the standard that I hold myself to now as well, of how the lighting is going to be done, how the editing is going to be done, the post-production of cleaning up cords and cables and TV screens and window views and everything that goes along with that. So the photography is fairly high end, as most photographers are in this business, but that's the standard that we hold ourselves to when we're completing that.
Okay. Is there any audio at all with the video or never?
Yeah. So the general format, what I've discussed is, we have that video playing and I have some background music that we've gotten secured rights to that plays in the background. And again, I try to match that up to the personality of the innkeepers. And then there's usually some Foley, some sound effect works of, okay, we're right by the little stream that's going. We're going to put a little in here. We're going to have the birds tweeting as we're walking down the paths. We're going to have the sizzling bacon on the pan for as we're cooking breakfast, things like that. Now, there are other options. So I do have all the audio equipment. I love doing story capture. I love talking to people. I love getting testimonials. This is another thing that we can do. And I've done it for some resorts, kind of in the Minnesota area. And it's great to hear those actual real life experiences that people have had when they can come in and say, this is my 5th year in a row here. I would never go anywhere else because Donna and Jack are the most incredible people I've ever met in my life, right? And it's one thing to read that from a Google review, but it's an entirely separate thing to see that person's face, to hear their intonation as they, have that emotion, speak about what this place means to them. And it's also great to get the testimonials from the innkeepers and the owners themselves. I love to see who's going to be taking care of me. And so when you see the passion come through in their voice of what this means to them and why they do it, day in and day out, 7 days a week, 52 weeks a year, like I love seeing that. And it's just like, oh gosh, I want to go stay with them. They're so cute,
Right. Yeah, no, I'm the same way as a guest. It would mean the same thing to me. It's like, yeah, if I can, it's all about the human connection thing for me. And yeah, I think that's why I was asking, because I was wondering, do you interview the innkeepers? And maybe it doesn't work for everybody, right? Maybe it doesn't come across that way, but I would think that if it does, you'd want to incorporate that. I just wasn't sure with that 90-second running video. Like sometimes it can be annoying to me when videos all of a sudden start playing and there's real loud and all of that, It's like, yeah, because it seems like most of them that I see don't have any audio. So
correct. So when we're talking about that masthead video, that's not where we would put the testimonial. The testimonial would go more on the about us page of a website. And that's kind of meet the owners, meet our guests, who we are type of situation. So that's kind of like a separate thing that's involved. I agree with you. We don't want to be blaring people with somebody coming and talking or loud music or anything like that. And I do try to work with the innkeepers, making sure that I know who their website designer is. So we get the right format. So we're designing it together. So everything matches up. When I give them those deliverables, they're not going to run into a bunch of issues on the back end of how do I get this online to make it look good and everything like that. We want to make sure that's taken care of before we get to that process. So I do try to work with them beforehand and get that information. So we're all in alignment.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now, sounds like you don't really have any geographical restraints, right? I mean, but I guess, do you charge like the approximate rate, like the 4,500, that would include travel typically, or?
No, I'm glad you brought that up, Steve. Travel is separate, right? Because I want to make sure it's fair for everybody that you're getting that work package that I've promised everybody at this price. And now it's going to be travel on top of it. Like if it's somebody just across the border in Minnesota, I can drive there. Well, we don't have any cost for that. But if I'm having to buy flights, now I'm having to check bags with my gear. There could be car rental involved. I would say, it can vary anywhere from $500 to, $1,200 for travel costs. And I do try to make that very apparent up front that that's what the expectation is. And then the client is responsible for lodging too, whether they want to put me in one of their rooms or if we need to get a hotel, if they're all booked up or anything like that. That would be the expectation as well.
That's pretty cool. You get to hang out at the B&B.
Oh my gosh, it's the greatest experience. Again, when I worked in, the hotel industry, you're getting powdered eggs for breakfast and, microwave sausage. And then you come to these gutted breakfasts and it's just this gourmet meal that I've been watching. I've been up since 4:30 in the kitchen with them watching it prepared. I've been smelling it for 3 hours. And when I sit down with that plate, it's my time just to be like, okay, I know we have a lot to do, but I'm going to take 20 minutes and really enjoy this. And then we'll get going again and hit it.
Yeah, it's not a big gig. Yeah.
And so as geographic limitations, like you said, no. I love to find new cities, new places. I keep saying I got to hang a map in here and start putting pins in it for everywhere that I've done a shoot because I've done East Coast, West Coast, international. It's so fun to travel to these places and see them. Again, I live in Fargo, North Dakota. Great city. I don't have bad things to say about it, but it's not exactly thrilling or picturesque. So when I can go out to these other locations, it's a lot of fun for me.
Yeah, you get to do what you want to do. And different places. So that's kind of cool. So now, in terms of, if I'm an innkeeper and I'm thinking, well, I've seen other sites, they have the videos. I haven't done that yet. Maybe I've paid a professional photographer. Maybe the stuff's getting a little stale. It doesn't really represent who I am or whatever. So if I want to go the video route and I'm saying, okay, it's going to cost me probably about $5,000, give or take a little bit, which depending on where I'm located, what's the typical ROI when somebody's kind of on the fence? What's your pitch, I guess, to say, well, look, do the numbers, and you say, well, let's see, how many you charge $300 a night or let's say $200 a night, right? So there's got to be some break even point at least. And it's hard to measure. That's part of the challenge, right? That's the same thing with us with the app. It's hard to measure other than people are using it, but what kind of benefit is there dollar wise? But what's your typical pitch to say, well, here's what I see. And, plus I wonder, is it usually this stuff lasts there's a limited life, right? It usually lasts 2 to 3 years. I mean, I don't know. Let's say I'm the innkeeper and Cody, I love my inn. I want to do video. I want you to come on site, but I'm kind of hemming and hawing about the cost. How do I know it's worth it?
You're extremely right that it's hard to measure the return investment on something that's so obtuse as a video. But what I would try to say is think of the cost it would have to hire a concierge, to hire a front desk agent, and what you're going to pay for those types of things in the long run, because that's what this video is serving for the innkeepers. When people go to that website and they see the video, they're getting that experience of they're getting a terrific welcome. They're getting information about the property. They're getting information about the location, and they're learning all the best places to go and see and do while they're there, right? That's time that you don't have to take explaining it to them necessarily every time they arrive. That's things that they're going to see before they even book, right? So if they're comparing different sites and this is the one that has the video, that's where the retention is. That's where their mind is going to come back to, is that feeling that they got when they saw that. I think that, we talk about the importance of high quality photography and it's an essential thing, but the video provides something that's so much more emotional of a connection when you can actually see the movement and see yourself in that place. And I think that is where the value lies in producing a video to have on the website. So like I said, it takes the roles of multiple different people that you could hire to do certain things, and it has something that's constantly there. As far as lifespan of these things, I do hope that we're getting 3 to 5 years out of each of them. I try to make them as timeless as possible. Whenever I'm shooting somewhere, I say, let's turn off the TV screen so they can't see that Super Bowl 56 is on in the background and we know exactly what year and time this was. And we go to any measure that we can to try to make sure that this doesn't feel dated. Technology changes and stuff, but I'm shooting at a high enough quality that I want to make it last for you and make it something that you can have on there for a while, right? If the town changes, you do, a refurbishment to the property. Yeah, let's go out there. Let's update this. Let's do it again and show everybody what's new and neat. But other than that, I would hope that you get a pretty good jog out of these. Then I book you, Steve. Are you sold? Are we doing it? Are we doing it?
Yeah, but Cody, I hear all this stuff about AI. And AI is going to take over the world and do everything for us. So why do I need you if I can just, I don't know, there's got to be an AI drone that can fly and do all this stuff and put it all together for me, isn't there?
Oh, gosh. All right. You sound a lot like my dad. Here we go. I do admit there are AI services out there. And for certain people, that might be the answer. For the type of client that I'm looking at, that's just not the right answer, right? People run a bed and breakfast because it's unique. It has personality. It's boutique. It is who they are. And you're not going to ever receive that type of production with anything that you do AI. What we're doing is we're doing a very personalized, bespoke production that reflects who they are and has that human emotion of it. Like that's, again, a big part of why I haven't hired anybody, because I want to have that connection with the owner so I can really feel them, right? What is important to them? What are they trying to get across with their messaging every time a guest walks in that door? And how can I better put a megaphone to that experience for them? And AI, the quality obviously isn't where it is with real production artists at this point. Maybe down the line that happens. But again, even if the quality is there, you're not going to have that personalized, just really hits when you watch it type of feeling. So, and it's not just for the guests to see. Again, it's for the owners. Like I said, when you have that drone shot come over and they see it from an angle they haven't seen before, you're showing them their property in a whole new light. And it is just an awakening for them to see the product of their hard work and to see that and have that memento forever of what, like, oh my gosh, look what we did. Look what we're running here. I think it's just so fantastic. I go back and I watch these videos months after I've completed them. I go and visit the websites and I watch it and I'm just enamored with it of when can I go back? Because I watch that again and I get all those emotions that come back through me, all those feelings. And it's just like, let's book it. Let's go.
Yeah, that's cool. And plus, I mean, the other thing, especially with what you're doing when you're going out and doing video of what's going on around town and talking to people or whatever. I mean, I don't know how AI is supposed to come up with that, right? I have no idea. Yeah.
And even if that were the case, I mean, innkeepers don't really have the time to learn the AI to do that, right? You're still going to have to hire somebody to produce that. And if you're hiring somebody, why would you hire somebody to put it into an algorithm when you can hire somebody that's going to come out and be part of that hospitality experience?
Yeah, I would think that, while there's some threat, if somebody's looking for a real cheap turnkey video, that AI, is out there to possibly do that. But otherwise, I think it is the real human element that AI is never going to be able to replace. And I certainly hope that that's the case with what you do, that you'll be needed for a long time.
I hope that's the case.
Yeah. I mean, I think I could probably go out and get like a podcast host, AI host pretty easily, because I'm asking all the questions. I might just have Matt record his intro and outro and just have pre-recorded, or just get his voice and put it into AI and have it talk back to me or something.
Well, that's what I was going to say. They have those now where they can record my voice at different times and then could just completely take over. 100%.
Yeah.
As long as you're detailed with the prompts of make sure you include references to 70s music and everything else. Yeah,
exactly. Yes. A lot of rock and roll references. Yeah. And speaking of rock and roll references, when you were saying, Cody, about how you kind of give over the master tapes, if you will, to the clients, I thought immediately like, wow, it's like unlike most record companies keep the master tapes and the artists don't really get much out of it. That's very similar. You just say, here's the masters. You do with them what you want. That's really cool.
It is a nice perk. Some people have no use for it. They have no desire for that, and I put that out there and they never download the link, and that's totally fine. But for some people, that's a big draw of, we don't always have to want to reach out and see if you can edit something else. We have an intern, we have my daughter, we have whoever that has enough editing skills that they can throw something together in a hurry for a Valentine's package or whatever, right? So they're going to show the shot that we used of the wine glasses on the bathtub, and they're going to have that in slow motion, and they're just going to have some text over it for, Facebook ads or Instagram ads or anything like that. So it is a perk. And not only that, but again, it's like seeing kind of the raw footage from your wedding day as opposed to the edited version. Like all those moments that you missed that you didn't realize that were happening, and you can go back and watch those again. And it's so neat, again, to see maybe this shot didn't make the final cut, but it's an interesting perspective of this room that you've never seen before, or this event, or, maybe we've used some of your family as actors or actresses within these, which very is common. Of people can bring in friends and family to come stay because they know they understand the property as well. And now you have that footage of them that you can have, even though, if it didn't make the final cut, but you have that, and it's like another memento that you get to keep.
Yeah, that's cool.
Don't put my contact out for it, because other videographers are going to yell at me for this. We are not supposed to do this.
Yeah, no, I hear you. So before we wrap up, I have one more rock and roll type question. Does anybody call you Commander Cody?
Oh, Commander Cody. Let's see. Is that cover of the Rolling Stone?
No. That's Dr. Hook. Commander Cody and his Lost Planet Spacemen, and they did Hot Rod Lincoln was their song.
Oh, Hot Rod Lincoln. That's
phenomenal song.
Yeah,
and actually,
drinking here.
Yeah. I used to play it for when my sons were a lot younger, and they loved it. With all the guitar noises. And actually, the guy that played guitar for them, even though they were a West Coast, like a California band, I believe, Bill Kirchen, he was a guy that was from the area where I am in Maryland, kind of Baltimore, DC. Yeah, I saw him live at this was probably about 15 years ago, and he was phenomenal, like an outdoor kind of show when he was in the area. I don't think he's in the area anymore. He's probably in his late 70s now, I guess, if he's still playing. But yeah, Commander Cody has lost.
I'm afraid I've never gotten that one. The nickname I get the most, I shoot at I grew up in the Scouts, and I work at a scout camp that's near here. So I go back and work with them. And it's just easier for people to call me Camera Dude. They don't have to remember names or anything else. So it's just, on the trail, I'll say this Camera Dude. So that's about as close as a nickname as I've got.
Good deal. Well, let's make sure we get your contact info, or at least over the airwaves here. I guess I'm dating myself by saying that. We'll put it in the show notes, right, of the podcast. But tell everybody if they want to get a hold of you, how they can do that.
Yeah, absolutely. The website is scratchmedia.co. When I started the company, I could not afford the M on the end of it, unfortunately. And I can't imagine how much work I've lost. That wherever non-existent email address of Cody@scratchmedia.com is getting loads of jobs, and I have no idea where it is. So yeah, the email address is Cody@scratchmedia.co. I try to tell people that the .co is short for Cody. Hopefully it helps them remember that that's what that is for. Yeah, and the website, you can reach me out there. I have a lot of examples of the work. When somebody reaches out, I put together a custom proposal kind of based on what their project is. I try to give them examples of things I've done in a similar vein so they can get an idea of who I am and what the work looks like. And then always happy to jump on a call with anybody. As you guys have seen, I'm a bit of a chatterbox and love to talk with people. It's that spirit of hospitality. So anything I can do to try to help them be convinced that this is the right option, I'm going to do it.
Yeah. Join the club on being a chatterbox. So
I warned him before we hit record. Yeah.
Yeah. Matt, you want to finish this up here?
Sure thing. Cody, before I do my little outro here, anything else to add or anything we may have missed?
I really want to say my gratitude for getting involved with some of the boutique innkeepers and these bed and breakfasts. Having worked with larger companies, like I said, the Hiltons, the Marriotts, it is so refreshing to get into this market that does lack the corporate overhead, the lawyers, the red tape. And my advice to anyone who is producing things in this business is express yourself. You don't have people telling you have to follow this format and you have to include these things and everything else that's involved with that. And that's why I really love being part of this smaller industry is we get to go out there and talk to these innkeepers and say, who do you want to be? What face do you want to show? And we can do everything in our power to make that happen rather than having to follow a script, having to follow a model, a template that's been given to us after it's been revised by a team of 46 lawyers, right? We get to go out there and have some fun and make it what you want. So I just am so grateful, so thankful to everybody that brings me out to their properties. And I look forward to many more in the future, I hope. Also, again, I'm in Fargo. So anybody in those southern states, if you need a shoot in December, January, February, there's discounts to be had to bring me out of this cold tundra for 3 or 4 days. Let's make something work, huh?
I sympathize. I don't empathize, but I sympathize. Thank goodness I don't empathize.
All right, cool. Well, I'll take us out. So this concludes this Frictionless Innkeeper podcast interview with Cody Harmon, who is the owner and founder of Scratch Media, which is a provider of videography and photography services for independent lodging. And our podcast is brought to you by the Frictionless Guest App, the digital concierge that helps your guests to live like locals. Learn how at frictionlessguest.com. Once again, that's frictionlessguest.com. And Cody, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you, gentlemen. Thank you so much. This is a lot of fun.
Steve Short, thank you as always, my friend.
All right. Thanks, Matt. Thank you, Cody. We appreciate the time.
Thank you.